Welcome to the Security Accelerator podcast powered by Symbian, where each week we will discuss the latest innovations and emerging trends in generative AI for cyber defense. I am your host, Jason Kierstead. Today on the Security Accelerator podcast, I'm privileged to be speaking with Omar Santos. Omar is a distinguished engineer at Cisco focusing on artificial intelligence security, cybersecurity research, incident response, and vulnerability disclosure. He's also a board member of the OASIS Open Standards Organization and is the current co-chair of the Coalition for Secure AI, an ecosystem of AI and cybersecurity experts from leading organizations that are dedicated to sharing best practices for secure AI deployment. Here is my conversation with Omar. Hi, Omar. Thanks again for volunteering to do the podcast with us here on the Security Accelerator. Excited to talk to you today about the Coalition for Secure AI.
Thank you for having me.
So we've been hearing about this initiative, the Coalition for Secure AI, otherwise known as COSI. Can you briefly tell us about the origins of this group? Where did it get started?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we started planning the open project. In 2023, and Google, came actually to me trying to find a home for a project or an initiative that they wanted to bring out to the community, and the perfect home for that was Oasis, which is an open standards organization, as you know, and also a very well known standards, and on open projects organization too. So open projects and standards is the core of Oasis. So we then met during RSA of last year, 2024, and basically what we wanted to do is have something actionable in the hands of the industry, because a lot of things are actually coming from many different directions. You have things from NIST, from OAS, from many organizations, but can we build something that it will be again, actionable and attainable by organizations, and then having some guidance that is not stale. But we're driving everything to GitHub, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And immediately, whenever we were talking about these, other companies like IBM, OpenAI, Anthropic, GenLab, IBM, Microsoft, they all felt the same need in the industry. We said, let's do this. And that's how it was born. And we launched the project in late summer. And we're really busy right now.
So tell us a little bit more about the project. What is COSI trying to achieve at the end of the day? What's the mission statement for the organization?
Yeah, at the end of the day, what we want to do, the main mission, is to have an open initiative focused on enhancing AI security, even though there's a lot of other elements whenever it comes to AI, like ethics, bias, discrimination, safety, and so on. But this one specifically to cybersecurity. And basically, it operates as a collaborative ecosystem where we have a pretty diverse stakeholder. It's not all about the companies that I just mentioned earlier. That was just a start. But we're working with other nonprofit organizations, academic institutions, and so on. And we're focusing in the security integration of AI system, whether it's an AI model coming from OpenAI or a RAG application or an agentic now implementation, as well.
On this podcast, we've been exploring the impact of large language models in AI and cyber defense areas like the SOC and vulnerability management. I know a passionate area of yours, threat intelligence, application security. So, what are some ways that you think that the work that's going on over at COSI will impact AI for cyber defense?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the coalition and actually the whole industry recognizes that AI models and applications are now capable of allowing engineers to write code and automate cyber defense workflows. But at the same time, attackers are actually using exactly the same techniques to launch attacks, and it's not around deep fakes anymore. Yeah, that continues to happen, and social engineering and so on. But now we're starting to see the advent of these threat actors using AI to create code and exploits faster than ever, right? So you have the dual nature of of the technology, that now we have to one embrace it so we can move faster and protect our organizations, whether it's vulnerability management, as you mentioned, internally to the organization, vulnerability management in a product, or an incident response, for example, in a SOC, Security Operations Center. Can we actually use AI and these best practices to not only try to stay ahead and automate a lot of the things that we can potentially automate, but also truly understand what are the tactics and techniques that attackers now are employing to traditional systems and also the AI systems that we're actually putting in our environment. So it's a pretty complex area, right? So in the coming years, we will definitely enter an environment where vulnerabilities are being discovered a lot faster, as I mentioned to you before. So this creates challenges that will be impacted by this rapid rate of vulnerability discovery. So especially in vulnerability management, right now, even with open source vulnerabilities, most companies they cannot even keep up with that, right? So what is going to be the landscape of vulnerability management, incident response, and protecting what we call it in the coalition, helping the defenders, protect their organization and their systems, it's going to be a different landscape, and that's what we're trying to address in the coalition.
So earlier you mentioned that there's various different streams of work that are going on. Can you talk about those streams? Like, what are the different projects that are going on in this organization, and how are they progressing, and who's kind of leading those different work streams?
Yeah, absolutely. So the coalition was launched with three main work streams, and we're literally in the middle of launching a new one. But the three initial work streams is supply chain security for AI. So that work stream will focus on the enhancing AI security by addressing, third-party model risk, provenance, application security around, models that you can grab from Hugging Face, and then you put that into an application that now has also third-party libraries. Pretty much everything is being abstracted now, whether you're using something like LangChain, Llama Index, LangGraph, etc. All that is actually third-party software, which is not new to the environment. We have this for quite some time, but now that you have to evaluate third-party models, and most companies are not creating foundation models from scratch, right? So they're using a third-party either inference provider like OpenAI, Anthropic, etc., or they're grabbing an open source model from Hugging Face and then, of course, deploying it, whether it's in AWS Bedrock or on premise, right? So you see a lot of areas that we have to address within the supply chain security elements. The second work stream is called preparing the defenders for a changing cybersecurity landscape, and it's basically what I was just mentioning a few minutes ago. The work stream, looks to equip defenders with a comprehensive framework, and specifically focusing on identifying, the security investments that you need to have, whether it's in people, technology, embracing AI, emerging technologies, and so on, and also looking at the overall security of the implementations of AI within the organization. What are the threat models for those systems? You're, deploying a RAG application, so a retrieval augmented generation, application. How do you secure vector databases? How you select embedding models? How do you definitely protect data? AI is not AI without data. So all that is within that work stream. The third work stream that we launched was AI security governance. So that one focuses on developing the taxonomy of risk, controls, different playbooks or checklists, and we also try to see if we can create scorecards to guide different organizations in readiness assessments. And I'm talking about readiness assessments for security. Right? There's a lot of metrics out there for evaluating an AI model. F1 scores for accuracy,
Right.
you have bias and everything, but whenever it comes to security, there's none, right? So we have to figure that out in the industry. Now, within the next couple of weeks, we're literally working hard on launching a fourth work stream to address the security challenges of AI agents and agentic systems, and specifically areas like just-in-time permissions. Nowadays, as you see, in all these agentic implementations, you have a menu of tools and APIs and vector databases that you actually can give to an agent. And then based on the task that they have at hand, they can select, whether it's a data from a vector database that you vectorized yesterday, or an API through a third-party application, or it can be launching we call tool calling, a function call, to then use a tool, perform a task, and then give that back data to the LLM to give you something, right, to perform that task. As you can see, the level of monitoring, security, guardrails, and permissions, especially privileged access, it is very challenging in that, right? And think about that now. A lot of people are giving these agents and the analogy that they're running as root because they have access to pretty much all data that you give them. And it's not about one agentic application. It's now that you're probably going to have communications between 2 or 3 or 4 different agent systems that you may not create. Maybe a third party. Let's say you communicate into an agent in Salesforce, another one for ServiceNow, another one for different types of applications. And I don't want to throw them under the bus, but we are already seeing some of these applications being exposed. And yes, a lot of people can say, what is the difference between that and just traditional API, security and and supply chain? Well, the scale and again, these are very ephemeral tasks that an agent is non-deterministic, right? They can pull the data from a specific source, do a task, and that's within milliseconds, right? And then well, you're
Yeah,
using the data within milliseconds, and you don't even know.
is the group as part of the press that came out as a result of OpenAI launching their operator software last week. I saw discussion where people said, "Oh, I was able to really easily ask operator to go and I took a picture of a bill, an invoice that I'd received in the mail, and asked operator to pay it, and it went to the website and filled in my credit card details and hit submit." And somebody pointed out, if it's that easy to pay your bill, think about how easy it's going to be for a threat actor to trick it into like sending all of the money out of your checking account by sending it an email. So is that aspect, part of, when you look at AI agents, is kind of teaching that to me, it's an interesting thing. To me, it's almost like we need to teach AI agents about cybersecurity in a similar way that we do training for employees.
100%. It's going to be a combination of things, and one thing that I want to to highlight, of course, OpenAI is also part of the conversation in COSAI, and so there will be a key stakeholder. The other one is Anthropic's computer use, right? And now you're giving access not only to a browser but the whole computer. Can I manipulate that quote unquote agentic application and then do other things other than empty your bank account, but have some backdoors in your system, communicating to a command control server, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I can do a lot of things super fast if you give me access to automation in any type of system. Now, what I wanted to step back is even defining what an agentic application is, because if you ask 5 people, even within the coalition, you're going to get 10 answers, right? So that's one of the things that we're trying to address. Most of the industry right now is kind of aligning into that an agent is an automated system that uses AI, one or more AI models, to perform some task, whether it's a very advanced task or paying your bill. Right? A lot of these are being incorporated within the model providers, like what you mentioned about computer use, the OpenAI implementation, and so on. So of course, all that type of automated tasks are being provided by them as an application, right? However, even outside of that, if you have a standalone model, and whenever I say standalone model, that means anything from Hugging Face or just raw OpenAI inference. There are other implementations like LangGraph is a perfect example of that, where you can build this cyclical workflow. So you don't have to depend on the model. Yes, you take advantage of the reasoning and all the new capabilities that the models have, but you can also have a little bit more control of what those series of tasks are, and that's why you're gonna see a combination of things. You're gonna see the more definitely more than what we're seeing now with a browser actually interacting with different websites and applications. OpenAI is going to introduce several other ones. They already announced it, but also implementations in an enterprise, and where okay, if I need to automate a task related to even security, let's say vulnerability management, can I have this agent look for all the CSAF vulnerabilities, analyze them, look at my source code. So then after you do the analysis of the source code, it tells you, hey, this may be or not be affected. It gives you some justifications for things like VEX and so on. And then it goes to another tool, and perhaps it runs, just for the lack of a better word or lack of example, the OAuth attack proxy, and then it specifically looks for if I can test this vulnerability or not, right? And that's a combination of getting data, function calling to actually, perhaps, get into an index of your source code. And then the other one is for launching a tool, right? So all that cyclical workflows are actually independent of the model, but it's still defined as an agentic implementation. You have to secure both. What you mentioned earlier is it's going to be a lot of education. It's kind of going back to basic education and basic common sense in some cases, right? I can tell you right now that I probably will not give my credit card to actually, book a vacation for me right now. I mean, for me at least, the booking of the vacation is part of the fun, right? But different people have different opinions.
So, it's a new year, 2025. What are the major goals that the coalition is trying to achieve in 2025? Do you have like a roadmap, like before the end of the year we want
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
achieve something?
Absolutely. So we're working, every single work stream right now is working on producing what we're going to be calling working documents, right? A lot of people say, oh, this a whole bunch of white papers, blah, blah, blah. No, these are going to be very, continuously updated since technology is changing so fast, outputs. And most of it is actually going to be, it is driven now by GitHub. So it's very, dynamic environment. But the key aspects of COSAI's mission for 2025 will include, of course, advancing AI security research and developing, open source, and whether it's tools. As a matter of fact, we have a few ideas of tools for even governance that you can go and do a series of questionnaires and checklists and everything else, and it tells you you're lacking, kind of like a heat map. These are the areas that you need improvement and so on. Other ones is promoting any type of work that now we need standardized, elements of it. So in other words, OASIS, which is the underlying organization where COSAI resides, is a standards organization. So as we are going over a lot of this, especially what I mentioned around just-in-time permissions and a lot of data provenance and so on, we're recognizing that some of this needs to be open standards, so not part of an open project. So we want to move fast within the project, but if there's something that we have to be more formal, then we pass it to a TC within OASIS. So that's definitely top of mind for us. The other one is, again, providing accessible resources and tools for the defenders. Again, I'm kind of spoiled, and I think that you have been in many large companies too, and where you have a lot of resources, but smaller organizations may not even have that, may have one guy for security or two or three. How can we help those organizations which are part of the ecosystem. Then the other one is we want to work a lot closer with the industry leaders, academic experts, and so on that are not just the companies like the Cisco's and Anthropic and NVIDIA of the world, right? So we're working a lot with academic institutions in the U.S., but we want to increase that capacity, if you will, with other ones in Europe and Asia Pac as well. So that's one of the main goals of this year is actually how can we get non-US only companies or academic institutions, but also other ones. We're working with Ben Gurion University, for example, right? That's one that we're collaborating with right now. But those are the top priorities, and of course, making sure that all those 4 work streams that I mentioned to you, we have a continuous momentum, and then we move fast.
There's a lot of work ahead this year. A lot of things to do.
Indeed.
So if people want to help you do that, how can people find out more about the work, and is it possible for other organizations to get involved?
Absolutely, 100%. As a matter of fact, even though we're going to share links to the website, and in the website there's a GitHub repository, etc. Even though you're going to see a whole bunch of logos, and it has increased significantly since we launched, you don't have to be a company, and you don't have to pay to participate. This is open to everybody. It is an open project, and it means it. So the organization COSI is definitely committed to providing that open environment. And if a lot of the things are going to be driven or are driven right now through GitHub repositories. So if you go to the coalitionforsecureai.org website, you're going to see a link to our GitHub repository, or at least the GitHub organization. And in there, you're going to find multiple repositories. You're going to find one, of course, for the administrative things of the PGB, so the Project Governing Board. There's another one for the TSC. But each of the work streams, which is what I want to highlight for everybody listening, each of the work streams have their own GitHub repository. How can you contribute? Whether it's through a pull request and contributions directly like that, or even if you have an idea or questions, or you want to participate in the conversation through a GitHub issue, that's the low-hanging fruit. And of course, if you want to take a little bit further, you can participate in the conference calls that we have, in the mailing list, and so on. But you're going to see that a lot of the things are actually driven through GitHub repositories, because it allows us to have a platform that pretty much everybody in the world is actually using for collaborating and tracking the work items that we're trying to produce.
Excellent. So people can just go to those repositories and explore what's available, and comment and open issues if they feel there's ways they can contribute.
Yeah, and the other thing is every single element of the open project, no pun intended, but it's open. Even the PGB, right? So for the PGB, we have to be a founding organization. There's a little bit more rules in there, right? But for the PGB, we publish every single meeting minute in GitHub, same location, right? So you can see not only from the work stream, but what we're actually talking about progressing, launching new work streams, launching new initiatives, working with different governments. We actually have, I failed to mention, we have a subset of the open project that is working with the public sector. So different organizations around the world, government organizations as well, right? Because we have to educate everybody, right? Sooner or later, a lot of regulations around the world are going to come to AI, and security is one of the main items, of course, safety and security. So the more that we educate and the more we can collaborate, that are things that are realistic, that are attainable, and of course actionable for people, the better the ecosystem will be.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm a huge supporter of these open projects and bringing the community together. So, I think that's about all the time we have today. Thanks a lot, Omar, for taking the time to educate us on this super important topic. And hopefully we can touch base in the future and see how everything has been going.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor. Thank you.
This has been the Security Accelerator podcast powered by Symbian. For more information on generative AI for cyber defense, visit us in our Slack community. You can find the link on our website at symbian.ai. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.